All right, so check it out. I got this tent. Of course, I built it the other day. It had to have been the hottest day ever. And when of course, I'm exaggerating. You know, it was just really humid, so I was absolutely soaking wet and disgusting. But the tent's built. It's done. It's going to be my brooder tent for a bunch of Muscovy ducks. And went and bought some new cuties yesterday, so let's take a look at them real quick and I'll show you my tent. Flip. So here's my tent. It's a 12 by 20, so 12 wide by 20 long by 8 foot high. I think it'll do a pretty good job brooding all these ducklings I got. I got this I guess net fence around it, and this net fence has, I want to say, 1.5 by 1.5 fine net at the bottom compared to this stuff, which is like 4x4 up top. This will keep all the Muscovies in. This stuff is a lot smaller than my regular net fence, like that pile sitting over there on my bin. And I got a lot of shit laying everywhere because, well, I just haven't cleaned it up yet. There's a little rooster over there doing his thing. So these are all my Muscovies right now, and you know, there's probably about, I want to say, 55 white ones, and then we have all the small ones that I just got yesterday. I don't know why the hell I said it like that. Yesterday. So bunch of colored Muscovies. There's some chocolates and some white with black, and I think he said there may even be some blue in here. Whole bunch of them. So these guys escaped yesterday and were in the main run, and people who watch my live stream got to watch all these little guys move around as one unit. See if I can zoom in on some of the colored ones. So you see the guys with the black heads and the black backs, and those guys right there. They're all Muscovy ducks as well. And the purpose of them, there's a chocolate back there. The purpose of the colored ones is to introduce a little bit of, different blood into this hatchery stock. Now, hatchery stock isn't usually very good. You end up with a bunch of, a bunch of undersized, bunch of ones, like the one on the right there that grows to double the size of some of the others. And it doesn't have to do necessarily with how you feed them. It's just the genetics aren't very good usually. A lot of inbreeding, rebreeding, backbreeding, stuff like that. So yeah, whole bunch of Muscovy ducklings. And I want to say they just shipped, and I think next week, about midweek, I'm due another 140 of them, some of the white ones. So there'll be a whole lot more ducklings in here, whole lot more. And the reason, now you're probably asking why they look pretty ugly, missing feathers on their back and stuff. I had them in my duck shed here in the brood bins, and the reason they're out here now is because of that, because they start picking on each other. They sling food all over each other, and they get it all over their backs and stuff, and then of course they see that food, and Muscovies aren't very nice when it comes to how they treat each other, so they pull each other's tail feathers out and back feathers, and just generally kind of nasty when it comes to their siblings. So you have to have a pretty good area for them, otherwise they pick on each other. Now all that feathering will grow back, and they'll look good again, and they'll look like my big old Muscovies I have out in the main run that shouldn't be in the main run. But same thing happened to those guys. They just pick on each other and pull all their feathers out. So what is the purpose of these? Well, the purpose of all these ducklings and what we're going to do with them is for meat production. White Muscovies, or French white Muscovies, are mainly used for meat. They get very big. They are all white, so they're easy to pluck, easy to clean. The skin presents nice and clean. versus the dark colored ones, which are, if you've never cleaned a duck or a chicken, they have something called pin feathers, which are basically feathers that are starting to grow in, and they're very hard to clean out. To clean the skin well, you have to basically scald them. So put them in very hot water for a few moments, and it causes all those pin feathers to pop, and you can pull them out with like tweezers or a backwards knife or something like that. So dark colored birds are not ideal for presentation in a restaurant setting, whereas light colored birds are. Now it doesn't mean that I can't sell the colored drakes as meat. I can. There's a slaughterhouse down the way that specifically wants colored drakes, which is why I have these colored ones and why I have the black Muscovies out in my main field. So those guys I will cross with these and mate with, I think there's 2 drakes. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't sex them. And I'll have pure black Muscovies as well. Right. That's the point. Meat production. I know it's for some people, kind of a nasty thing. But, you know, it kind of is what it is. I wish I didn't have to, but, you know, every animal on my farm has to produce something. I'm not a pet farm. I know I've been saying that a lot, but, you know, still people don't seem to get it. And that's okay. You know, it is really what it is. But these guys, like some of the other homesteaders and farmsteaders say, their goal here is to live a happy, productive life until they don't. And that day that they don't will be the day that they see the slaughterhouse. But otherwise, they have plenty of water. This water is a auto refill water, so I don't have to have a pond for them. They can, it's deep enough, they can dip their bills in and clean out their nares. I fed these guys last night, and I filled up this silver bucket here all the way to the top. Well, I filled it about halfway with feed, then added water and some brewer's yeast to it, and I dumped it in there, and it was still half full. So I just tilted the bucket over, and well, this morning it's all gone. So that's probably about 6 pounds of feed that I put in there. Created about, I don't know, 10 pounds, and they ate it all. So if you don't know, Muscovy ducklings are like 2-legged feathered pigs. They just eat and eat and eat and eat. But I think I calculated it out well enough that I can figure how much they're going to cost me per bird to feed through their 26-week grow out. And if I feed them regular feed, it'll be about $21 a bird, maybe a little more because the price has gone up on feed. You know, if I charge double that, I can make my profit. So generally, drakes and hens, if you look up a Muscovy duck online for sale, dressed and finished for, you know, for consumption, there's some sites that are selling hens which are significantly undersized compared to drakes, selling them for $65 a bird. I haven't found any drakes for sale, so I don't know what the point of that is, but you know, yeah. So I sell drakes to a restaurant. I don't know what I'm going to do with all the hens. Try to sell them on the open market, I guess. We'll see. Maybe egg layers or something like that. I don't know. But I still got to feed them. Once I start getting into actually hatching my own, that's going to be a different animal because I'm going to have a lot. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do with all the hens. So I'm not feeding them. Now there's an option, and it's a pretty, I don't know, it's a nasty option, right? It is what it is too. In order to handle the hens, the ducklings that I don't need, there's a way that you can put them to sleep. And here on my homestead, I don't just kill them. So there's something called a kill box, and what you do is some people recommend using CO2, but I don't believe in that. CO2 is like one of the more nasty ways you can kill them. The MDA, so Maryland Department of Agriculture, suggests CO2 for very large, like hen houses that need to be culled. So like I say, a hen house that is tested positive for avian influenza, they'll flood with CO2 and asphyxiate them all. Now, CO2, I mean, we've all drank soda or pop or whatever, depending where you're from, and you burp and it goes through your nose and, immediately painful, right? So same deal with asphyxiating birds with CO2 is that the CO2 causes mucous membrane inflammation and pain. So if you kill with CO2, what ends up happening is they thrash around and they have a pretty painful, death, and it's not good. So in my eyes, it's better to use nitrogen or a noble gas that they can't feel. So nitrogen you pump into, say, a cooler or another type of mostly airtight box, and it causes them just to go to sleep. They don't kick, thrash, get upset, none of that stuff. So that's one of my options, is to use nitrogen in a semi-sealed container to make them go to sleep. The other option is selling all the hens, as many as I can, for relatively cheap on Craigslist or Facebook or whatever, and I'll absolutely 100% pursue that first before I call anything. That way we give them a chance to live, on someone else's farm, or do whatever they do somewhere else. Unfortunately, with animal husbandry, it's an unwelcome side effect, but a very necessary one. With veal production, you have to kid, you have to make babies to get the veal, and then you slaughter a baby. With milk production, you have to calve, so you always have to have a calf that comes out to keep the cow in milk. Same thing with goats, you have to kid to produce babies to get milk, or veal or whatever. It sucks, and I hate it, but you know how it is. It's how it goes, unfortunately. And if I can, I hate to make this about money, but if I can fetch $65 a drake to lose a hen, or to sell a hen for $5 or $10, then I absolutely will. I guess I'm not too upset about it. I mean, raising animals is one of those things, especially on a farm, that you have to deal with culling or death that is unexpected, right? So it's nothing to come out one morning and find a bird stuck in the net fencing, or a fox or owl or whatever that have ripped the head off one of my birds out there, or something like that, and you just kind of have to deal with it. I try to catch them before any of that happens, but it does happen. I can't have in the space that I have, I can't have netting over top of everything. Otherwise, I'd be spending a absolute ton of money on bird netting. And sometimes you have to pick your battles, right? Implement electric fence, like this white net fencing here is electric. Around my fence out there, I've got top hot wire, and I haven't installed it yet, but I'm going to have a bottom hot wire on the inside and outside, and that ought to stop the digging and the fox and stuff coming in. But I just can't do an aerial net like a true aviary. With that said, over there somewhere, I'm going to have pens that are made specifically for small birds like chickens, bantams, stuff like that, and those will be completely sealed with fencing and stuff like that on top and sides and bottom. They'll have a run to keep everybody in and everything out, so they'll be completely segregated. But when you're free ranging like this, a lot of people I was having a talk with another farmer yesterday, and he says, it's actually in his best interest that people don't protect their coops. And to some extent, I agree with him. And the reason I agree with him is because it's bad for business. I wish everybody the best in their chicken adventures, right, or their duck adventures or whatever, and I don't want purposely, I don't want them to lose their flock, but in terms of sales, selling birds or whatever, as gross as it is, it's a lot of people don't seem to understand that. People that come by, they say, I've never lost a chicken free range, and I said, you will, and it'll take you by surprise. And they say, well, I don't have any foxes said that you don't see, right? Like you're not going to see a fox. They're nocturnal. Fox is going to stumble by your place one day, go, ooh, chicken, and he's going to take all your chickens. You have to protect your birds. But for me, it's not necessarily a good thing that people protect their birds, because if everybody protects their birds, that means they buy once, or once every 2 years, 3 years, when their chickens or whatever stop producing. So in the regards of, it's one of those things, you're on the fence 50-50. It's a good and a bad thing. I don't want to see anybody lose their animals, but I need to make sales too, right? So I don't know. There's some people I can talk to about that. Other farmers, it just is what it is. Especially if you're trying to sell a bunch of hens, like these guys, and they're adorable right now. Kind of ugly, but need to make sure I can sell them. So all right, well, enough rambling. You've seen my tent. It's a big tent, and these guys will do just fine underneath of it. And once they eat down all the grass, I'll put down some straw or hay or whatever, and that'll keep them. So yeah, look at that. They got a piece of cardboard to nibble on, keep them entertained. But the straw and hay will keep the ground and their feet protected, and they'll do good. So all right, well, thanks for watching. 17 minutes, 18 minutes of me talking about nonsense. So enjoy your day, have a good day, and if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.